So before we start, I want to take off the 3 bolts that hold this motor mount onto the frame of the car. And this is for the passenger side control arm only, because the front bolt will actually make contact with the oil filter housing. Don't ask me how I know. And for the driver's side, you don't have to do any of this. Like, the control arm will just come out normally. But this side, you can either unbolt this motor mount in several different places. So there's a lot of options here. You just have to basically make room to raise the engine up a little bit to make it clear that bolt. It's going to be hard to see, but there are 3 bolts, one over here, one straight down here, and then one straight down here for the motor mount onto the frame. You can take it off the engine, you can take it off of this center piece right here, whatever you want to do. For me, I'm going to go off of the frame, 17mm socket. I'm going to start with this easier one to reach. For the one that's underneath the overflow, I'm going to unbolt the overflow tank with 2 10mm bolts. There we go. The bolt's right there. If you pop these lines out of their retainer, you can move them in order to, another 10mm bolt right there. That'll let me move this line a little more, or a nut actually. There we go. There's that bolt, and one last one is straight down in between here. That's going to be a little tricky. Now in between here you can sneak a socket with a long extension. Kind of just wiggle it till it drops into place and remove the bolt. You have to get your tool out. You have to do some wiggling. There's the tool. Oh, bolt fell, so I heard it hit the ground. Use a little pry bar or screwdriver, whatever you have, and very gently pry the hubcap away, just like that. And then with your 21mm socket, remove all 5 of your lug nuts, and then remove the wheel. Next, I want to take off the splash shield, or at least pull it down a little bit so we can get access to the front bolt of the control arm. There should be push clips going all around, so just remove whatever push clips are holding yours on. And I have a bungee cord ready. Bungee cord it. Next, I'm going to take off the 3 17mm fasteners that are holding this ball joint to the control arm. 2 nuts, 1 bolt. It's separated. That's exactly what you want. So in order to give myself a little bit of extra space here for that bolt and the oil filter housing, I'm going to jack up on the corner of the oil pan. Not a lot, just a little bit. That should give me enough clearance for my socket on that bolt. Okay, let's break it free by hand first. Okay, there we go. I think that finally broke free. Let's try it with the air gun. A little trick to getting these out is grab your wrench, use it to pry from behind. There's the front bolt. For the rear bolt, I'm going to use a 22mm socket on the bolt side and a 22 wrench on the nut side just to hold it. Take the nut out and pull the bolt out. Now you can pull the control arm down, out of the front, turn it, and then you have to just wiggle it till it comes out the back. There it is. To put the new one in, just reverse the procedure. I'm going to slide it into the back first. If you have to use a rubber mallet to persuade it, go ahead. Okay, once that hole is lined up, I'm going to put the bolt through. That way at least it's held in place in one spot. Now you can bend it down, bring it underneath the sway bar, and then try to position it in the front. I'm going to put this nut on so the bolt doesn't fall out. Almost. All right, now it just has to go up. Take my pry bar down in here, just so I can raise this up a little bit. Oh, looks like I went too far. Bring it down. There we go. Bolt fits right in. Let's start this one on so that I know it's on the threads. All right, don't tighten it yet. We need to put load on this control arm first. In order to simulate this control arm being at ride height, what I'm going to do is pull this out like that. Actually, turn the ball joint out completely. And now the control arm is pushed up all the way. This is basically where it would be at ride height. And so now we can tighten those two big bolts. Now with the control arm in that position, let's tighten this up all the way. Now we can torque it to 172 foot-pounds. All right, that's 172 right there. And this back one right there gets torqued to 158 foot-pounds. So let's finish tightening that one up as well. All right, that's 158. Now we can put it back into the ball joint. There we go. Let's put the 3 fasteners on. Start these on by hand, bottom them out, and then torque them to 66 foot-pounds. Let's lower the support. Now we can untie the splash shield and resecure it with its push clips. Let's get the wheel back on. Start on all 5 of your lug nuts, snug them up, and then torque them to 76 foot-pounds. Let's not forget about the hubcap. If you have one, make sure you line up this slot with the valve stem. That way it doesn't get damaged. These can be a little tricky to put on. There we go. You have to hold them in multiple places at the same time. Let's put the motor mount bolts back in. I'm going to start with this front one. I'll drop it down with my magnet, make sure it goes into the threads. That one's on. Let's do the other 2. There's this top one right here. Sometimes you might need to pry the engine a little bit. Okay, this one's started. I'll bring it down a little bit. And last one, which is the easiest one to get to. All right, now that they're all started, let's tighten them all up. Make sure they're nice and tight. Let's put this AC line back on to the mounting stud here and make sure it's clipped into its bracket. Same with this one. And resecure the overflow tank. Now you're done, you can go get yourself an alignment.